The Cybertruck has been in customer hands for almost a year at this point, and after driving one for a few days back in January for my full review, I knew at some point I'd probably want to get one. I waited a bit of time, but ultimately took the plunge. So today I'm going to detail why I changed my mind, why I bought a Cybertruck, and the good and bad of my ownership experience so far, so let's get into it. For a while now, my philosophy on this YouTube channel has involved buying the latest Tesla vehicles as soon as I can in order to review them and report on my real-world experience. I also did the same here with the Rivian R1T. For the Cybertruck, however, things were different. This truck had over 2 million pre-orders, and back when it was announced, I actually didn't put in my order until a few months later. This meant I was pretty far back in the order queue. So when delivery started, very slowly, at the end of last year, I knew it would be a while before I could get my hands on one. At the time, I tried, but knew it wasn't possible for quite some time. Then came January, and I decided to sell my Rivian R1T. I made a full video about that, but ultimately decided to part with that car for a few reasons. One was selling it before it depreciated more, because Rivian was about to release their Gen 2 R1T with their new motors, and at that point, the old motors and old car would actually become a bit outdated, even though they performed great. Then I wasn't really needing a truck, and while I do love the size of the Rivian as a whole, the 4.5-foot bed did have some limitations when I did need a truck. On top of that, I kept dealing with issues on the Rivian, and my service center is about an hour away or more with traffic with long waits for appointments. I liked that truck a lot, and I think Rivian does great with their software especially, but I was experiencing some of the early adopter things that came with it. There were some other things that happened personally as well, so it just made sense to part with that car. At that point as well, I had driven the Cybertruck for a few days, and while that truck is a very specific thing, especially when you look at it from the outside, steer-by-wire and four-wheel steering really stuck with me. I loved how easy that truck was to drive and knew I'd want that in the future. When the Cybertruck was rolling out, Tesla was selling the Foundation series. This came with some features like FSD and most of the Cybertruck's accessories, but that was a $20,000 upcharge on top of the pricing that was nearly double of what Tesla originally announced this truck would ship for. So cost was a big factor. I waited a while and decided I may as well wait for a non-Foundation series truck to ship, however long that may take. On top of this, Tesla wasn't delivering some of the things that this truck was supposed to come with. One was the wheel covers, which may not be the biggest deal in the world, but it took them a while to reintroduce those covers. And then was full self-driving. Believe it or not, I've gotten so accustomed to using Tesla's full self-driving, or even just autopilot, for so many of my drives, that when I thought about driving the Cybertruck, as much as I love it, I knew I wouldn't be driving it all the time, because it doesn't have full self-driving. And I knew that you'd be paying that upcharge in order to get full self-driving, which wouldn't actually get delivered probably until they made the truck without that upcharge. The Tesla referral program had a few Cybertruck raffles, so I entered all of those, and then in June I did get the email from Tesla, quote, "Your limited edition Foundation Series Cybertruck is ready to order." After a ton of deliberation, I decided to pass on that opportunity and stick it out for the regular Cybertruck. A huge wave of Cybertrucks had been delivered, and on the YouTube side, beyond a full review, there really wasn't much I could offer at that point, unless I was planning to destroy this truck. The videos people were watching involved the tow hitch snapping in half, wheels breaking when off-roading, the truck breaking after going through entirely too deep of water, shooting it with every possible gun and more, and that's just not my thing. I'll probably lightly take this truck off-road, but I'm not somebody who's going to go to those extremes for a video. By June, there were a ton of Cybertruck owners' reviews, road trip videos, destruction videos, and of course, issues videos. The Cybertruck is not only a new product for Tesla, which can come with some growing pains, but it has a ton of new technology. The windshield wiper is massive and requires a larger motor, the entire truck's architecture is 48 volts instead of 12 volts for low voltage, which is new for the industry as a whole, and the high voltage architecture is 800 volts, which is new for Tesla. Then, of course, it's stainless steel, has steer-by-wire, has four-wheel steering, has an automatic tonneau cover, and much more. This feels like a Tesla inside, but also is so different than any car they've shipped, so owners were experiencing early issues. To a degree, I could get one and report on my real-world experience with issues, but there were enough that I at least wanted to wait for a higher VIN. So, from the channel's perspective, it just didn't make that much sense, and it came at a premium. Then around October, I started getting the bug again, and part of this was because Tesla was shipping out first non-Foundation series Cybertrucks. For a bit then as well, I had been deliberating on getting Tesla Solar, which requires a re-roof for me, power walls, or at least setting up some sort of home backup for when unexpected blackouts may occur either in winter or summer here in Los Angeles. One big feature of the Cybertruck is Powershare, which lets you back up your home for up to 3 days depending on how much energy you use. This allows you to utilize the Cybertruck's massive battery pack, and it's something I've wanted for a long time from Tesla. So while this truck is expensive, this feature alone adds a ton to its value, especially in my case since I will 100% use this feature. By this point as well, Cybertrucks were delivering with wheel covers, all accessories, and full self-driving had finally launched in this truck. FSD is the flagship technology Tesla is working on, so I did think it was particularly crazy that they didn't have any form of lane keeping on this truck for about 11 months. In any case, once Tesla released the non-Foundation series pricing, the math made a bit more sense to me. At normal pricing, the all-wheel drive truck starts at $80,000. Upgrading to the Cyber wheels and all-terrain tires costs $3,500. Upgrading to white interior costs $2,000, and then full self-driving costs $8,000. Along with this, with the Foundation series, Tesla sends you a $2,500 credit to purchase the Powershare Home Backup Bundle. This is what enables Powershare on the Cybertruck, so that you can back up your home. With all of that considered, you're looking at about $96,000 of value, and then Tesla will give you things like all-weather floor mats, a glass roof sunshade, and a few other small accessories that add up to a few hundred more dollars. I also considered depreciation here, which I fully expect to happen very quickly on the Cybertruck, and realized that instead of selling this truck off, I intend to keep this for a long time. I'll be using this to transport drums a lot, transport my e-bike, and much more for some home renovations I have planned, so even if this is worth half of what I paid for it in a couple of years, I will fully be utilizing it. Once I saw that pricing, considered depreciation, and decided I actually wanted all of those upgrades, I made the decision to just go ahead and convert my order to a Foundation Series Cybertruck. I also forgot to mention I do just like the look of this truck. I know it's crazy and so much different, but that is what I love about it, that it's something completely different on the road, and a total change from what we've seen for many years. By the time I made this decision though, Tesla had shipped well over 30,000 Cybertrucks, and this was available right away if I wanted it. Ultimately, I'd still be paying a premium to get it earlier, but I still knew I was about 1 million back in the order queue. I figured that even though Tesla has worked their way through their order list with Foundation Series trucks, it will be a while before I get the opportunity to buy a normally priced truck. So I went for it. I converted my order in the app, proceeded with all necessary steps, and was immediately assigned a VIN. Since I was immediately assigned a VIN, I knew the truck was sitting at the delivery center already, and my appointment was scheduled for 2 days later. I messaged Tesla through the app to see if the truck might already be available for pickup, and sure enough, it was. So the same day that I made my order, I took an Uber to the Upland Service Center and picked up my brand new Foundation Series Cybertruck. In the bed came everything, including the updated wheel covers, which weirdly hadn't yet been delivered to previous buyers of this truck. I inspected the truck, and then I drove home. It was a pretty wild experience to be able to pick up this truck the same day, but it was super fun, especially since I had spent so much time deliberating. It wasn't just a last-minute impulsive decision. As far as this decision though, and the timing, I still feel okay about it, but quickly realized I did mess up, thinking Tesla wasn't going to invite me to buy a normal truck. In fact, just 3 days after I took delivery of my Foundation Series Cybertruck, Tesla sent an email saying, "Your Cybertruck is ready for delivery." This is because I had 2 orders back from 2019 and 2020. After this, it was quickly reported that Tesla had worked through the entire pre-order list for the Cybertruck at normal pricing, which means many customers, in fact the majority of those 2 million pre-orders, are deciding to either cancel or wait for the cheaper version of this truck. This happened about 10 days after I took delivery of the Foundation Series, then Tesla entirely stopped the Foundation Series by October 20th or so, and at this point, anybody can go to Tesla's website and order a Cybertruck for delivery within November or December, starting at $80,000. All-wheel drive or Cyberbeast is available in that time frame. So Tesla is very much scaled on this truck, and they are looking for buyers. On top of that, Tesla added the Cybertruck to the referral program, which means again, waiting about 2 weeks or so could have saved me an additional $1,000 by using someone's referral link. This is the stuff I talk about all the time on the channel, and how it's impossible to time a Tesla purchase. This one was probably very obvious to some people, but clearly I missed it. Ultimately, it ended up costing me about $5,000 or so, but there still is at least something cool about having the Foundation Series Cybertruck. I have one of the higher VIN Foundation Series trucks in the US at over $36,000. Normal orders are proceeding from here in the US, but then Tesla is going with the Foundation Series deliveries in other North American countries right now. In any case, how has the truck been so far? First, the good. This drives unlike any other truck, including great electric ones. People talk about this, but you don't really understand until you do a full U-turn in the Cybertruck, or maneuver tight areas and experience the combination of steer-by-wire, enabling very tight steering at low speeds, and four-wheel steering, enabling a very tight turning radius. Other electric trucks have great one-pedal driving. Other electric trucks have four-wheel steering, but the Cybertruck is the first vehicle to ship with steer-by-wire exclusively, and it's incredible. It actually makes it so easy to maneuver that getting back into a Model 3, you're a bit confused. Why do I have to turn this wheel so far? Of course, that car is smaller, lighter, and easier to maneuver, but it requires more input from you, which is really odd at first. Driving the Cybertruck around is extremely easy, and it doesn't feel like a truck. It feels very planted and just sort of feels like a large car. Body roll is very minimal, so you feel extra confident driving in certain areas. So I absolutely love driving the Cybertruck for these reasons, and because it rides incredibly smooth and is extremely quiet inside. It's definitely the best built Tesla I have ever been in from an interior quality perspective. Road noise mostly disappears, it's very comfortable and easy to drive. As far as storage as well, it's fantastic. For some, the odd angled shape of the bed is inconvenient, but for my use, it means that the tonneau cover is actually that much more useful. I can fit a whole drum set back here with no problem and have it completely locked and covered. With a flat bed, a large bass drum wouldn't fit under that cover, but it does on the higher side for the Cybertruck. The tonneau also works really great. I had the recalled powered tonneau on the Rivian R1T, so this is a huge improvement on that. So far, it just works, and in my experience, the cover has been waterproof. I don't think it's rated 100% waterproof or anything, but after some overnight rain, the bed was completely dry for me, and so was my bike that I accidentally left in there. Then there's the understorage compartment in the bed, and a drain plug if I want to use this as an ice chest of some kind. I also love the rear bed lighting, the track system for mounting future accessories, and the outlets in the rear to power standard devices, or those that take NEMA 1450. The rear seats folding up, along with the rear doors opening up almost to 90 degrees, also makes the second row extremely useful for large cargo. Although I will say you are a tad worried you may damage the screen depending on what you're putting back there. Inside, the Cybertruck is also very spacious. It's comfortable in both rows, and that minimal interior means a lot of space to stretch out. Tesla went with the single center display, but at 18.5 inches, you really notice the difference compared to a Model 3 or Y. Then the sound system. I've never heard a sound system this good, and I think part of this has to do with the extremely large dash in the Cybertruck, among other smart engineering. I've listened to a ton of my favorite music, offline downloaded in hi-fi from Tidal, and it sounds incredible. I get excited to use this sound system when parked or when driving, since you basically only hear what you're listening to in many driving scenarios. The latest sound system in Tesla's vehicles are all pretty great, but this one takes the cake for me, and I can't wait to experience it for years to come. With that said, that brings us to Cybertruck issues, and the first one is there with no gapless playback. This is something Tesla can fix and needs to via a software update. When listening to an album in hi-fi on the best sound system, it shouldn't add a 1-second gap between songs on an album that's supposed to flow. So that's not Cybertruck exclusive, that's Tesla software as a whole. It is well known that the Cybertruck has sharp corners, and this is just a reality with this truck. You do have to avoid touching certain areas or sweeping past it, and you especially notice it when shreds of microfiber towels end up in corners or in areas like this. Here it actually seems that Tesla forgot to smooth out the edge on this piece of stainless. It's very rough, but the other side is smooth. Then recently I've been experiencing a seat creaking when accelerating or braking. Here's a video when it was at its worst. It has gotten better since then, and I have a service appointment scheduled to have this fixed, among two other issues. There's some sort of whining sound within my front motor that gets faster when I speed up, and here's a clip of that. Then the interior LED light bar on the passenger side of my truck has kind of a dead spot in the middle. Everywhere else this is a solid light in whatever color I choose, but in the middle of that door it gets super dim. One other small thing I notice is that the screen does press in a little bit. I think this has to do with it being such a large display, but it's something I'm not used to seeing on any of Tesla's vehicles. It does seem to be normal though. When you really look around the Cybertruck, you can see some alignment issues, and I think this is kind of a funny one. Tesla has a history of alignment issues, which is mostly behind them, but then they chose basically the toughest material ever to form and align. It shows at times with the Cybertruck, but in general it doesn't bother me. I only notice it if I'm actually looking for it. What will be a part of ownership, though, is cleaning the stainless steel. This truck definitely collects fingerprints and marks you can't clean off in normal ways, which is at least a piece of why many people wrap this truck. I'm learning how to take care of it properly before wrapping mine, but I think it either goes one of two ways. You accept that this is a truck and accept the natural look of stainless steel that has been utilized, received fingerprints and more, or you learn how to properly take care of it and you're constantly cleaning it. The other thing for cleaning though is that if you're parked in the sun, the stainless gets really hot, so you may need to cool the car down in the shade before spraying things on that may dry immediately. As for the front windshield, it provides a really incredible expansive view, but since that dash is so deep, it's extremely hard to clean. Somehow I did end up with a dead bug all the way at the front there, and it's funny just how far away it is from me. In order to clean that windshield, I actually bought a special accessory to reach. Your visibility is great looking forward for the most part, but you will notice somewhat of a blind spot in the A-pillars, and then of course you can't see the front of the truck. So you do have to learn where the front is, and luckily it's actually much shallower than you may think at first. Regarding visibility though, you have rear visibility. I think this is the area where the Cybertruck needs the most work. When the tonneau is closed, which for most drivers is the majority of the time, your rear view mirror is useless. So Tesla pulls up a rear view on screen. This can be placed in 2 locations, but has a couple of flaws. First, it's just not that great of a feed, and second, it's quite small. It also is placed on top of elements on the screen and either covers them in the case of an app like Tidal, or pushes certain design elements down. From a UI design perspective, it feels very much tacked on. My personal theory here is that Tesla was originally planning to put a rear view camera on the Cybertruck, like they showed off with the prototype. But Elon came in and said, it'll drive itself in 6 months, got it. You can see that idea in a lot of Tesla's design, and here I think the Cybertruck user experience does suffer. When the mirror is usable, about half of that view is the bed, and then of course with the tailgate down, the camera is pointed down as well, so there's no rear camera view. Here is where I wish Tesla included a bed camera like Rivian has on the R1T. Not only is this fantastic for visibility when the tailgate is down, but it adds a camera for what otherwise is a blind spot in the Cybertruck for the Sentry Mode security system. Maybe Tesla just figured the majority of the time it will be closed. Then the last piece here that I don't quite understand, Tesla put a camera cleaner on the front camera. This is great because if it gets dirty at any time, or when off-roading, you can clean it while staying inside the car. Around back though, for the camera you rely on entirely when the cover is closed, there's no cleaner. So if this gets dirty, you're out of luck and have to go clean it yourself, or you can't really see behind you. That's a weird oversight to me, especially when you rely on this. But again, I speculate that Elon just said, it'll drive itself in 6 months, we don't need it. But the engineers did win the argument for the front camera because of off-road use. Then when you're utilizing that rear camera as your view, but turn on your blinker, it's replaced by the blind spot camera. In this situation, this is the better camera to see, but it's a big shift to suddenly no longer have the ability to look behind you. For instance, if I'm at an intersection, I do like to glance back to make sure nobody is hurling towards me. But if my blinker is on, I'm only seeing a blind spot camera. Because of this, I do find myself either opening the cameras with the button on the steering wheel or checking my side mirrors more often to see behind me. With all of that said, I have shown this to a few different non-Tesla drivers and actually have heard multiple perspectives. Some immediately say, wow, terrible visibility, that's the camera feed. But others say, well, you can't see out of the back of any van, so this makes sense, it's normal and I'm used to it. Either way, I think Tesla could have done a rear view camera and it would have improved this system a lot and cleaned up the center screen's UI. The other somewhat weird one to me is the position of the front camera. A slightly off-center front or rear camera is fairly normal in cars, and here it's shifted to the left because of the front license plate location on the Cybertruck. But Tesla's parking lines are actually not reflective of this. I noticed this because I pulled forward into a parking spot, used the guidelines to center myself perfectly in the spot between the lines, but then noticed I was shifted left when I looked at my wheels. So the guide is showing me lines that reflect a centered camera, but the camera is actually not in that spot. It's a small thing, but something you do notice when parking a truck as large as the Cybertruck and trying to park between the lines. With that said, it's still very easy to park with everything like four-wheel steering and steer-by-wire, but I will say Auto Park could use some work. And I think all of FSD has some dialing in to be done here. It has been about a month since this launched on the Cybertruck, and it almost feels like watching someone drive a large truck for the first time. FSD will do the normal things like drive slower than it should, but it will also ride over the line sometimes and do a lot of corrective steering in situations like a roundabout. I find myself using it a lot less on the Cybertruck than I do in my Model 3. Then for Auto Park, this was how it parallel parked for me at a curb, about 16 inches or so from the curb, which isn't great for any car, let alone one that is 95 inches wide with mirrors. These are things I do expect to improve in time, and that is the nature of Tesla's full self-driving package, especially on such a new vehicle. I just wish they had done that work or completed it before delivering the first Cybertrucks, but that's just not how Tesla does it. So far, I'm loving the Cybertruck. I have some plans for it, might get it wrapped and more, but generally plan to keep it for a long time into the future. I also like that by waiting as long as I did, it doesn't draw quite the fanfare that it did at launch. People still get excited to see it, but it's not like it was at first, which is fine by me. I'm excited to drive this and report on it into the future, even though it seems I should have waited about 2 weeks to save a couple $1,000s on my purchase. Regardless, I'll keep you posted on my ownership experience and how it goes getting my couple of issues fixed on this truck. In the meantime, if you want to see my full review of Tesla's other newest car, the Performance Model 3, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.